So I'm chipping in for Shirish. Unfortunately, he was unwell, and that's the reason why I'm taking this talk. This is something, although I'm talking about arthroscopic fixation, but this is something which even the trauma surgeons can apply in their practice, because greater tuberosity fractures are something which we see or encounter in routine practice. Conventionally, if you look at the management of GT fractures, the old benchmark of 1 centimeter, which is described by Neil, the question is this really true? How many of us would accept a 1 centimeter displacement as a modality for conservative treatment? And data has shown that 5 millimeter posterior and superior displacement of the greater tuberosity brings about significant changes in biomechanics and causes alteration in shoulder function. To the point that Levin has shown that 5 millimeter is required for regular population. Another paper from Egypt which talks about as less as 3 millimeter displacement. According to current guidelines, what is it that we do in routine practice? Anything where up to 5 millimeter of displacement can be probably treated conservatively in a low demand patient. In a high demand patient, something as less as even 3 millimeters may need to be considered for fixation. Now, if you look at the modality of fracture, the mechanism is in avulsion, and by definition, avulsion means to pull away. So if you look at the anatomy, its supraspinatus along with its attachment of the infraspinatus is not going to pull the fragment only superiorly, it's going to be upward and a backward displacement. And understanding this is something important when you're going to use a minimally invasive modality. So when I look at my x-rays, I need to understand that which way the fracture is displacing. And for that, something very important is to get a true AP or a Grashy view, which is going to allow you to see what's the rim of the glenoid looking like with relationship to the greater tuberosity. And second thing is you can do a trauma axillary or a Vulpio view. CT scans remain a gold standard to understand the fracture geometry and the displacement better. And there are 3 fracture patterns which you may get. Either a classic avulsion type, a split type, and a depression type. In my practice, I limit arthroscopic fixation to the avulsion type of fractures and not as a blanket statement. Conventionally, traditional teaching has been to do a screw fixation, but we know all of us have burnt our fingers with this, where you put in a screw, patient comes in the post-op period, at 6 to 8 weeks, you can see that the screw has literally ripped apart because the pull of the supraspinatus is such. What are the newer options? Either you can use a short plate, and we know that these plates are not yet freely available in India, but for a big cleavage type factor, that is a big fragment, you can use a short philos. You can do a lateral row anchor with a suture bridge kind of fixation. And this is something biomechanically is very strong. So even if you want to do an open procedure, you can very well do this modality. And lastly, you can go ahead and do an arthroscopic fixation, which is pretty much an implantless technique. And that's what I'm going to talk about. This is what I was discussing about biomechanics, that how using anchors on the lateral row as a tension band principle, you can offload the primary construct, and that's going to allow you to do a faster mobilization and allow the patient to get a faster range of motion rather than having secondary stiffness eventually. So coming to the surgical technique, you can either do this in a beach chair or a lateral position. Whichever position you do, you need to get C-arm access because you want to see the reduction once under C-arm, although you get an arthroscopic view. You're going to do standard cuff portals because you're going to work from the subacromial space, not in the glenohumeral joint. You're going to adhere to the principles of trauma. You're going to clear the fracture hematoma, indirect suture shuttling, and then assessment of adequate reduction. So this is a case example, 56-year-old gentleman, typical avulsion type fracture, small fragment. You possibly can't put in a screw out here, nor would you put in a plate. Had come in with an MRI. Routinely, I don't need an MRI. A CT should be good enough. So starting from the lateral posterior portal, that's the lateral assessment. That's the glenohumeral joint. You look at any concomitant injuries, assess the labrum. That's the needle in the rotator interval. And then you go ahead and look at the fragment from underneath. Once you have identified the fragment, then you enter into the subacromial space. You're going to clear off the fracture hematoma, debride the base of the fracture, and you're going to assess the geometry. That's the junction of the articular cartilage and the crater. That's where my first anchor would go in. And then you're going to start passing the sutures. Now, passage of sutures, you can either do a direct antegrade passing using one of these self-retrieving devices. Alternatively, you can do a retrograde device. When the fragment is big, you possibly can't use a direct shuttling device because effectively you're going to crush the fragment. And that's where you're going to use a retrograde device, and that allows multiple sutures to pass through. It can be cost effective if you feel that your four limbs are not good enough. You can then possibly pass a free tape. The advantage with the tape is because it has a broader surface area, you don't have the cheese wiring effect in an acutely traumatized tissue. So here you can see that all the sutures have been passed across. You have a lateral cannula, which is your standard working portal, and then you try to reduce the fragment, and with the help of cannula, try to hold it there. Once you've got it there, clear the lateral surgical neck of the humerus, where you would put in your regular anchor on the lateral side, the knotless type of devices, and then you're going to go ahead and fix it by means of any form of lateral knotless fixation. And that allows a secure fixation. Now you could also do this. So these are the main steps, and that's the post-op reduction. And you can see that it should be within 3 millimeters of your preoperative assessment. And you can mobilize them quite fast. So you can see at 2 months, that's the kind of range of motion that you would have, and you could allow this patient to get back to his active livelihood. You can also do a complete knotless fixation. That means medial 2 anchors using knotless devices. That is purely a tape type of construct. And this is, if patient is affording enough, that's my go-to device. So you can see that's the crater being cleared. So what is to be emphasized here is that you will stick to trauma principles. Just because you have a scope in hand, that does not mean that you're not going to use your trauma principles. And that's the kind of device fixation you will have. So 2 medial row anchors, 2 lateral row anchors, an all tape fixation gives you an absolute secure fixation. And again, like I mentioned earlier, you can get the patient to mobilize ASAP. What are the advantages? It's minimally invasive, less morbid, other pathologies can be addressed, and the most important thing as an arthroscopy surgeon for me is that there is no hardware. You don't require a revision surgery. God forbid this patient requires something in the future, can be taken care of. Disadvantages? Yes, everything has a learning curve, so that's something you need to be aware about. Mal reduction can be possible and visualization can be challenging. So if I have to summarize this, implant failure we know in greater tuberosity fracture is a big problem. Various modalities of fixation allow for a good anatomic reduction. Arthroscopic fixation allows a good hardware-free modality of fixation. Fracture pattern selection and technical expertise remain prerequisites for this. Thank you.